Hi, listeners. This is Sabrina Duquesne, and you're listening to PS Weekly on the Miseducation podcast. We have a special episode for you today. With Thanksgiving around the corner, a lot of us are looking forward to a hearty meal, a few laughs, some fun games, and simply enjoying the company of our friends and family. And in the spirit of gratitude, we'd like to pay tribute to a special group of people who've played a major role in the shaping of our educational experiences. So, without further ado, I'm going to pass it off to a very good friend of mine, whose voice you may be familiar with. Renika Jack, take it away.
My 10th grade health and chemistry teacher, Mr. Saeed.
My 8th grade humanities teacher, Ali McCursey.
My 11th grade teacher, Miss Briggs.
Mr. Jonas, my teacher and my advisor.
My 3rd and 5th grade teacher, Mrs. Sharf.
My teacher, Miss Biggs.
I couldn't just do one because they worked in such a great team together, are Miss Ferrari and Mr. Luminello.
My media literacy teacher, Miss Lambro.
I would really love to highlight a teacher that I had in elementary school who unfortunately isn't with us, and her name is Miss Brown.
Hey, Miseducation listeners, I'm Renika Jack. Today, we have something very special for you. Over the last 3 years, we've been grappling with the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. I, myself, struggled with the isolation from friends and transitioning from in-person to virtual learning. However, this pandemic has not just affected the lives of students, such as myself. It has gravely affected our teachers as well. Most of us have had a teacher or teachers who made a huge impact on our lives. They helped shape us, open our minds to new things, and took time to help us understand the world. And sometimes it can be hard to show or even say how much you really appreciate them and what they've done for you. In spite of the difficulties they faced during the pandemic, teachers showed up and showed out. So, we at Miseducation came up with the idea to allow students to share stories of that teacher or teachers they appreciate the most. So today, you'll be hearing from them.
The teacher that I would like to acknowledge is my good sis, Miss Severino. Miss Severino goes to the high school of fashion industry. She still teaches there. And she was my global and my U.S. history teacher for 10th and 11th grade. One thing I can say about Miss Severino is that her energy is top tier. I had never met a single human being that has so much energy and is consistent with it. And it can be like 8:10 in the morning on a rainy day. Everyone's coming in, everyone's half asleep, everyone doesn't even want to be there. She is the one bright sun that just brightens the whole classroom, brightens the weather, brightens everything. She cares about mental health. She cares about my mental health, what I went through. She was my personal place where there's times that I would visit her at lunch and I would just rant, what's going on in my life. And one thing that really touched me the most, I applied for my study abroad program and I needed a recommendation letter. So I went to her and I was like, hey, can I get a recommendation letter? And without hesitation was like, yes, absolutely, I'll write it for you. And when I say I got that recommendation letter, I almost cried. Oh my goodness, it was so heartfelt, so touching. She was one of the... It said in the letter that Mia Jackson is one of my closest students that I've ever been with, that just makes the reason of me being a teacher meaningful. And that got to my heart so much, and now she's just my favorite person in the whole entire world. So shout outs to her, and I'll see you next year.
Hello, my name is David Cruz. I'm an upcoming senior at Achievement First University Prep, and I'll be taking the time out of my day to take my 11th grade teacher, Miss Briggs. She taught us pre-calc and geometry, and both are subjects I've never been really confident in. There's this one story where I was dreading this upcoming test because I didn't know the subject, and obviously I didn't get a high score. So when it came time to basically revise my work for a better grade, I came in after school expecting, I'll be working on this test alone, trying to figure out what I did wrong. But Ms. Briggs actually came and sat down next to me, and she basically asked me what was it that I didn't understand, and she went over the questions with me. And that overall made me feel really safe in the classroom. I feel like once you learn that the teacher actually cares about your learning, you want to impress them. You want to let them know that you appreciate what they're doing for you. And she also encouraged me to come out of my shell. She started a financial club, which I actually became vice president of. And believe me, it was not a spur of the moment of, I'm going to be vice president, because elections are never my thing. But she basically encouraged everyone who joined the financial club that if you feel passionate about the subject, you should go try to, have a leadership role in it. And with the encouragement of her and my friends, I was able to step up and realize, hey, you know what? I may not know too much about the subject, but I'm going to try to learn about it, and I'm going to help others who are struggling like I am. Honestly, that story really sticks to me. Miss Briggs really cares about basically our future, and overall, I really felt pretty close to her. It also helps that at our final day of financial club, she also came to buy us all ice cream when the ice cream truck didn't show up like it said it would. I know she wasn't too happy about that, but she felt that she wanted to actually give us a prize for sticking with the club.
Hey listeners, this is Jaden M. Williams, and I attend Bard High School Early College, Manhattan. I would love to make a short tribute to my media literacy teacher, Miss Lambro. I first had Miss Lambro for photography 1 and 2 in the 10th grade, actually, which was during quarantine. I, genuinely and honestly feel like photography in particular helped me discover myself during, quarantine, which was a time where I totally felt lost and, found myself searching for meaning, just like a purpose in life. And Miss Lambro's photography class allowed me to express myself. I felt sadness and loneliness during the beginning of quarantine. I remember having a unit where she taught us how to take photos under different lighting scenarios, and I always chose split lighting because it was like moody and I was kind of sad during the time, so it had kind of a gloomy aesthetic. But as quarantine progressed and near quarantine's end, I slowly transitioned to being very happy, and overly enthusiastic in my photos. I was always smiling and just having fun. All of this definitely wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for Miss Lambro. Photography was one of, the key artistic mediums that allowed me to express myself and communicate with others during quarantine. She always reached out to me offering very positive feedback on my work and motivating me to continue pursuing photography, which is something I do to this day.
Hi everyone, my name is Vienna Du and I am a rising senior at Susan Wagner High School. So today I wanted to give a shout out to my 3rd and 5th grade teacher, Mrs. Scharf. I remember on some mornings of 3rd grade, she would encourage my class to write a journal entry. So it would be about any topic we wanted to write about. It could be about our weekend, anything. And then after that, we had the chance to stand up in front of the class and read our entry and present. And I remember one time after I wrote my journal entry, she chose me to present, and it was definitely very scary. But it felt really nice afterwards being able to share my work and get feedback from her and my class. And I want to say thank you, Mrs. Shar, for providing me with a space to grow as a writer and be able to share my work and present and become more confident from that.
Hello, everybody.
This is Jadalyn. She's a senior at Energy Tech High School.
The 2 teachers that I want to mention and shout out I couldn't just do one because they worked in such a great team together, are Miss Ferrari and Mr. Luminello, who I had last school year for my 11th grade A push class. I remember that we were just coming out of online school and hybrid learning, so we were all going into the building. And I feel like many students, it was difficult for them because of, social anxiety and going back and interacting with people. I was a bit nervous because it was my first time in the school building since I had transferred before, so I really didn't know anybody. And it was a AP course. I mean, I thought, oh, this is going to be hard. But the first time I went into their class, they were just so energetic, so happy to see us all. They actually made me feel kind of, excited for taking it. I really couldn't wait to start learning about history. I would go and I would study and I would get flashcards and I would take a multiple choice test and she would check it for me. Ms. Ferrari was just so great. And then Mr. Luminello, I would triple check my essays with him all the time because he was also my AP Lang teacher. And I remember there was like a full-on week where every single day I would just go after school and I would make him, check my essay. I was like, please, I need some help. And, I felt annoying, but he would always make me, he would always be like, Jade, it's fine. You can never I was like, no, I'm annoying you. I know that. But, he was just so nice about it. And I just really, really appreciate all that time and dedication that they put to their students. They're such awesome teachers, and I will definitely remember them forever and ever. So thank you so much, Ms. Ferrari and Mr. Luminello.
Hello, this is Blake Riley. I'm 16 years old, and I'll be doing my teacher tribute to my 8th grade humanities teacher, Allie McCursey. Specifically for writing, she was a big impact on me. In 8th grade, one of our big curriculums of the year was studying Greek mythology. And at one point, we had to write a Greek mythology essay. I wrote mine pretty straightforward, and I wrote about Poseidon. I talked about what he did, what his powers were, his history, blah, blah, blah. And even though I wrote it solidly, and she said it was written well enough, it was not creative and it didn't show any side of me. So she set up a meeting for us just to talk about the writing, and I just redid my entire essay, and it was 100% better. It was more emotional, and there were inferable statements and critical statements, and that really broadened my thoughts as a writer. I really appreciated her insight and her expertise, and it helped me become more creative, and has always stuck with me and has helped me become just a way better writer and a more creative person in any field, anything that I endeavor now. And she gave me the most growth I could possibly get in 8th grade.
Hi, my name is Love, and today I'd like to thank a teacher that's made a difference in my life. Mr. Smith is one of the best math teachers I've ever had because he's so patient. He showed me the work, even if I kept asking questions. He explained it to me over and over again until I got it. He was patient with me. He was calm. It doesn't matter what would happen. It doesn't matter who the student was. If you were having trouble and you asked Mr. Smith, he would sit with you all day and go over it all day. He's the type of teacher who took days off during his weekends to help us, give us extra help for our Algebra 1 Regents. He's the type of teacher to really go that extra mile to make a great environment for his kids to learn. And in fact, he's also the BSU kind of leader, I'd say. And BSU is Black Student Union, which I'm also a part of. And in BSU, I've met so many friends and so many people that helped make my 9th grade wonderful. And I have to say, I give props to Mr. Smith for creating such an environment and a club that Black kids like myself can come to and feel comfortable being with each other. And honestly, I have to say, anyone can be a teacher. Anyone can apply for this job and say, oh, I'm a teacher, I have students, and I teach them. But it really takes a special kind of person to care about your students. And I feel like Mr. Smith has succeeded in doing something very special and creating a very special environment for me. And I have to say, thank you, Mr. Smith, for making my 9th grade the best it's ever been.
Hi, my name is Isha Washington, and I will be paying tribute to Mr. Jonas, which is my teacher and my advisor. And so Mr. Jonas is a fellow Jamaican, so we can have hour-long conversations relating to each other about issues about being a Black person, him being a Black teacher, and me being a Black student in a predominantly white institution. And we just provide each other a beacon of comfort and hope in a place where people who look like us are so limited. And so he's also an avid participant in BLSU, which is a Black Latino student union in our school. Even though he's not the advisor of the club, he sits in our meetings and he fully just absorbs the conversation and just listens to the concerns of the students, because this is a community where Black and Latino students can feel safe. And so he listens. He's a part of equity team, and he puts the concerns that we have and the changes that we want to make into action. And even just like the small things, like I asked him one day if he had Girl Scout cookies because he provided them for our AP statistics class one day. And he never forgot that moment, because every single time I see him, he always makes an effort to give me a box, like a whole box of Thin Mints, knowing that he can't eat them himself. He has diabetes and he's struggling with some of his health. But he knows that this will make students happy, so he always has them on hand, just a stash hiding in his drawer, just ready for someone to come up to him and ask him if they have Girl Scout cookies, because he wants his students to just be comfortable and happy in his classroom. So, Mr. Jonas, if you're hearing this, thank you, and goodbye.
Hello there, my name is Zana Halili. I am a rising senior at Baruch College Campus High School in Manhattan, and today I'm going to be shouting out my teacher, Miss Biggs, who was my advisor my first 3 years of high school and also my 11th grade AP Language and Composition teacher. As an advisor, she was always very helpful and informative. At the start of all of our circles, she would always lead us in a breathing exercise, and whenever we were in our circles, we would always use a talking piece. And I remember thinking that was kind of childish at first. It was kind of the stuff that you did in like middle school, and I was like, I'm a high schooler now, I don't want to be doing all that stuff anymore. But I think it brought just a sense of calmness and a sense of order to the classroom, which, looking back on it now, I really appreciate. And I think it was just a really safe space where people could talk about what was upsetting them and talk about the change that they wanted to see in our world. And overall, I think it was just a really comforting environment that she created for all of us. Having her as my advisor for 2 years, I was really excited to have her finally as my English teacher last year. In her class, I feel like I've thought the most I've ever thought in an English class, if you know what I mean. Like, I remember we read The Great Gatsby, and that was my 3rd time reading that book. And so I was just kind of like frustrated by the fact that I was going to have to read it for a 3rd time. I was like, I already know this book so well. But she pointed out symbols and significance with language that I had never noticed before in my first 2 readings. And I remember just being so blown away by like everything that she said, because it was just so deep and so thoughtful. I really just felt like I understood literature in a completely different way after being in her class.
Hi, my name is Marvin Lizama, and I'm an undergrad from New York City College of Technology. I would really love to highlight a teacher that I had in elementary school who unfortunately isn't with us, and her name is Miss Brown. She was the first ever music teacher that I had, and the first teacher who really kind of instilled that self-love and instilled all of the beautiful and positive emotions that you should hone in in yourself and carry with yourself. There was this one song that I remember having to learn and practice for the class. It was kind of an assignment, but not really an assignment because it was played a lot. And that song was called Smile. And till this day, when I hear that song or when I even think about a rhythm or lyrics that include the word smile, I think of Miss Brown. Miss Brown was always a very soft-spoken, but yet a person full with intense authority. I'd never heard her scream, yell, or shout at all to any student. She was so sweet with her words and kind with her words and had the most sweet sounding voice when singing, and it was such a soothing thing to hear. At the end of each class, I would approach Miss Brown and give her a hug and say, "It's good seeing you, Miss Brown." And I vividly remember the last time I had her for my 4th or 5th year. And I remember accidentally stepping on her foot when giving her my final hug for the class. And I was super apologetic, but I was like, it was great having you as my teacher, Miss Brown. It wasn't until when I was in middle school or early high school when I heard about her pass, which was super devastating and super hard to kind of understand and believe. I really do wish the best to Miss Brown's family, and I really would love to offer this tribute to her, being that she was such a sweet and inspiring and also a person who had a positive impact on my life.
Hello everyone, my name is Renika Jack. I'm a recent graduate from Cyber Arts Studio Academy in Park Slope, Brooklyn. Today I'll be talking about my 10th grade health and chemistry teacher, Mr. Saeed. Mr. Saeed was like one of the coolest teachers that we had. He would, chill with us like he was one of the homeboys, but he would also teach in a way that we would learn easy and we could pass his class. I had just moved here from Guyana in South America in 2019, September 2019 to be exact. And I was feeling homesick for the time that I began school. Like, I didn't have no friends, I didn't know nobody, so I was basically by myself. Like, it was a new start, and I hated like new starts, fresh starts, and all of that. So in my health class, Mrs. Saeed kind of made it so easy for us to open up about our mental and how we felt. But I didn't want, everyone in the class to know my mental state. So like when he would give us like individual work, I would like call out to him and be like, "Yo, Mrs. Saeed, like, I hate it here. I want to go home. Like, I don't like it here. Like, it's cold. And, I'm not from the cold." And he would be like, "Well, this is your new life. You should take advantage of this." And I was like, "Mrs. Saeed, I'm not doing this. Like, I really want to go home." And I would cry about my ass. And I would explain how I felt, and he was like, "You're having anxiety and panic attacks." And I'd be like, "Oh, that's what that was." And because of his class, I really understand a lot about mental health. He gave me like an option. He said, if you want to, you could write down all your feelings. When you feel overwhelmed, when you feel like you're having an anxiety attack, just write it all down. And if you want to, you could bring it to me and I could read it. And I was like, okay, I took him up on his word, and I would write down everything that I felt. And at first I wouldn't give him to read it, but then I gave him. And when I did, I was like, I went into my health class that day and I gave him the paper of what I wrote. And he sat right there and he read it. He didn't make a big deal because I didn't want to feel weird, And he read it, then he went off to his desk, and I continued with my health work. And then he came back with a paper, and he wrote back to me, and he had the most encouraging words, and he was like, "You're doing great. Keep writing, keep expressing your feelings. Remember, you don't always have to give me it, but if you do, I'll read it and I'll always write you back." And from since then, writing down my feelings has been a coping mechanism for me. I started to write stories, and then from stories that I wrote, I started with the Miseducation podcast, and I was able to do research and interviews and write real script about the interviews that I have and episodes, and that made me interested in journalism. So I just want to show a big appreciation to Mr. Mohammed Saeed. He no longer teaches at Cyber Art Studio. He's now pursuing nursing. And I'm so proud of him, and I know that he's proud of me. We still keep in contact recently. I just want to thank Mr. Saeed, because if it wasn't for him and his coping mechanism that he taught me, I probably wouldn't be here. So, yeah, I just want to say thanks to him.
If you enjoyed this episode and want to get involved and thank a teacher, you can submit your own story to bellvoices.org/teachers. That's bellvoices.org/teachers. This episode was produced by me, Renika Jack, with the support of Sabrina Duquesne, Mira Gordon, and Taylor McGraw. Thanks to Blue Dot Sessions for the music. Thank you to our listeners, and thank you to our teachers. Without you, many of us would not be where we are today. This is Renika Jack signing off for now.